We begin this hour with breaking news. A judge has sentenced an Ontario couple found guilty of the first-degree murder of a 12-year-old boy in their care, as well as confining and assaulting his younger brother. Brandy, Cooney and Becky Hamber had been aiming to adopt the two Indigenous boys. They were convicted in May after a long trial where they were accused of abusing and neglecting the siblings. The CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick is at the courthouse in Milton, Ontario. Megan, what did the judge decide?
Well, the two women were convicted of first-degree murder, which means an automatic life sentence in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. So that happened. That was made official that they were being sentenced, both of them, on that count that they were convicted of. But both of them also were convicted of 3 other charges in relation to the younger brother. So I'll go through now what happened there. On the count of unlawful confinement, they were sentenced to 3 years in custody for that, and that is what the Crown had requested. The defense lawyer for one of the women had requested a lesser sentence. On the charge of assault with a weapon, they were sentenced to 2 years in custody. Again, that is what the Crown had requested. And on the charge of failing to provide the necessaries of life, they were given the maximum there, 5 years in custody. So basically the Crown got what they wanted, Andrew. They were given those sentences that had been requested. Again, the defense lawyer for one of the women had requested lesser sentences, and the defense lawyer for one of the other women made no submissions at all. There was quite a reaction in the courtroom when the sentences were handed down. There was some applause when everything was over. I saw one man wave bye-bye to the defendants as they were led out of the courtroom. There were a lot of people there, and it was a very emotional time in the courtroom today. And I just want to highlight a couple of things that Justice Conlon said when he was delivering his decisions. He talked about how the two women, he said in his opinion, betrayed the faith that had been entrusted to them as foster parents who were trying to adopt 2 young Indigenous children. He said the life of one young child has been snuffed out at the hands of these offenders, and that the younger brother's life has been altered forever. He did say how important the victim impact statements were, how integral that input is in sentencing. And he said what was clear from those statements is that the boy who died will never be forgotten. So again, life in prison, no chance of parole for 25 years, plus those other sentences. The key outstanding question, though, Andrew, is whether the defendants, these women who have been convicted, will appeal those convictions and appeal the sentences. We'll have to wait for a period of time to find that out.
And Megan, what did you hear in the victim impact statements?
Well, again, very emotional victim impact statements delivered by a number of family members, including the younger brother, who spoke briefly to the court. He talked about missing his older brother, how they used to play sports together, how he'll never have that chance again. He also said he didn't like living with the two women and that it never should have happened, that he and his brother ended up with them. We also heard from his mother, his biological birth mother, the mother of the two boys, who tearfully delivered her victim impact statement, saying really it was impossible to put into words the pain and suffering and grief that she feels. But she talked about her son who died, how funny he was, how intelligent he was, how caring he was, that he loved being an older brother. And she told the court she hopes her son is remembered more for how he lived than how he died. We also heard from a neighbor who talked about the impact on the community in Burlington, where the couple lived, where the boys lived with that couple for several years. And she talked about how when they learned more about what was happening inside that house through the trial, that the neighbors are horrified, that they're heartbroken, that they feel a lot of guilt. A lot of them, and we heard this from others too, the health impacts, PTSD, we heard from some people who delivered statements, anxiety, insomnia. We just heard a moment ago from one of the neighbors. Here's some of what he told us.
Misled, basically. We got tricked. Their personalities sort of made them, like their impact statements was about them, and everything was about them. It was always about them, never about the kids, never about anyone else, always about their victims. They were victims through this whole thing, all the way to court. The last words that they said, that they were victims, which is the most disgusting thing I've actually heard in my entire life.
So So he was talking there about hearing from the defendants, which I'll get to in a moment. But one of the other very emotional statements that was delivered in court was by a former teacher. And she spoke on behalf of other teachers as well, other educators and fellow classmates of the two boys. And she said the school community where the boys attended has been shattered. She also talked about that feeling of guilt, but she also wanted to highlight again the boys and their personalities and really focused on that as well. But she talked about how some teachers' careers have been altered, just how much they're struggling with what happened. Some have taken time off work and not been able to go back, Andrew.
And the defendants also addressed the court. What did they say?
Yeah, they did. So as part of a sentencing hearing, those who are convicted do have the opportunity to address the court, and both Hamber and Cooney took that opportunity. First, Cooney spoke, followed by Hamber. They maintained their innocence. Hamber, in her comments, also addressed some of her remarks directly to the boy who died, saying that she did everything she could to protect him, never intended to harm him, that she loved him, that she misses him, she cries every day, she told the court. She also addressed her wife, and she then shared her thoughts generally about the trial, and she said justice has not been served. She maintained that the boy was not murdered, that he was not starved to death. She criticized the trial and said it all adds up to injustice. And when she was speaking, Andrew, when both women were speaking, the reaction in the courtroom was one of disbelief by some people I could see. Just some people couldn't even look at the women as they were talking, and kind of just shaking their heads at what the women were saying. And I spoke to the teacher who delivered the victim impact statement after at a court break, and she just said how sickening it was that they addressed the court, that the defendants addressed the court, and that she was shocked by what they said, and also feeling like it was unfair that they got the last word because they did get to speak last after the victim impact statements had been read, and she felt that that was unfair as well. So there were a lot of emotions in the courtroom today, a lot of sadness, and from what we heard from people, anger, guilt, a lot of emotion. It's been a long trial. This started back in September. It finished in March. Now the sentencing hearing, and again, we'll have to wait and see whether the two women appeal their convictions or not.
Megan, thank you. The CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick live at the courthouse in Milton, Ontario.